Hey, what's up you guys? Guinea Piggies Designs here, and today I am bringing you episode 24 of where I'm sewing things for my guinea pig cage. But real quick, for those of you who are new, my name is Brittany and I basically just sew things for your small animals. And for the past few months I have been doing this series where I'm taking you all step by step of how to create your very own cage set. I'm actually making a couple of cage sets. There's that. And anyways, today we're on episode 24 where I'm going back through the Cuddle Cups, hooded houses, hay bag, guinea pig home, the foam cubes. I'm just adding on to my last video. So those are the things that I'm mainly working on in this video. And then through this video, I'm just going to be doing a voiceover of what I'm working on. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video. Alright, so for the first part of this video, I am going to be working on the hooded houses. So I am making 2 hooded houses. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hand sew up the holes on the hooded houses. So I'm going to take a needle and thread. I'm going to double knot the end of it. And then I'm going to start hand sewing up the houses. So to do this part, all I'm doing is a ladder stitch. Now, if you do want to see me go into detail of sewing a ladder stitch, I will link my potty pad tutorial down below because I do go a lot slower in that video. But just so this video is not super long, I decided I'm just going to speed right through it. But I'm going to hand sew up the hooded houses, and after I'm done doing this one, I'm going to repeat the same thing to the second one. I'm finishing up the 2 removable pads for each of the hooded houses. So for the first one, I kind of forgot to press the record button, so I did sew that one already. But all I'm doing here is I'm adding the second seam around the potty pads. And for this seam, I'm placing it 2 inches away from the edge, which is my seam allowance. And since I am making 2 hooded houses, I'm going to be repeating this process a total of 4 times. Once I'm done sewing the seams around the pads, these pads are completely done and I will not be adding to these at all. So these are finished. Now I am working on the cuddle cups. So I am making 4 cuddle cups. So what I'm going to do first is just hand sew up the opening you see there, and I'm going to be doing the ladder stitch just like I did with the hooded houses, and I'm going to repeat this process 4 times. movable pads, I am adding that second seam, which is 2 inches away from the edge, which again is my inseam. Same thing like I did with the hooded house pads, and I am going to repeat this process 8 times. So now the Cuddle Cup pads are all finished. I will not be adding to these pads. They're done. So now we're going to be moving on to the hay bags. So for the hay bags, I already sewed around each hole in my last video. So now I'm taking a pair of scissors, which I'll have these linked down below, and I'm going to be cutting a X in the middle of the holes. So to do this, what I do is I'll cut in the middle just to create a little hole so I can get my scissors through. And then what I'm doing is I'm cutting all the way up to the sewed edge. You do not want to cut past the sewed edge, but again, cutting up towards the edge, towards the corner, and I'm doing that to all of the corners. So at the end, you'll create an X shape, I guess, around each hole, if that makes sense. And since I am making 2 hay bags, I'm going to repeat this process one more time. To working on the cubes. So for the cubes, I am making 3 cubes. So all I'm doing here is I'm gonna start sewing on the next side, and then I'm going to set aside the other pieces for another video. But for now, I'm going to be attaching a piece to the top where the ribbons are, and then I'm going to clip it down, and then I'm going to sew along the edge on one side, and then I'm going to flip it over and sew on the other side the same seam that I just sewed, just to ensure the stitch is strong. Once I'm done sewing down that side, I am going to trim off the excess with these scissors, and then I'm going to start attaching the side to the openings side, if that makes sense, as you can see here. And then I'm going to clip it down, and then I am going to sew along the edge there on one side, and then I'm going to flip it over and sew on the edge again, the same seam, just to ensure again the stitch is strong. And then I'm going to start moving on to the other 2 cubes. So all I'm going to do after I'm done with this part here, after I trim off the excess, is I'm going to start a new cube, repeating the whole process all over again. to the removable pads for the cubes. So all I'm doing here is I'm going to be adding that second seam around the pads, and to do this I'm just sewing a straight line 2 inches away from the edge all the way around. So again, I'm leaving a 2-inch inseam around this pad, and I am making 3 cubes, so I'm going to be making 6 pads total. And then once I'm done sewing around all of the pads, these pads will be finished. I will not be adding anything else to these. They're all done. So there's that. Next, I am going to be finishing up the snuggle tunnels. So I am making 3 snuggle tunnels. So all I'm doing in this part is I'm sticking my hand into the tunnel and I'm grabbing the other side and basically just pulling it right side out. And once I got this right side out, I'm going to repeat this 2 more times to the other tunnels. And then after when I'm done with that, these tunnels are finished. I will not be adding on to these. The last item that I am working on in this video is going to be the piggy home. So for this part, I am taking the piggy home, I'm turning it inside out, so bad side facing out, and I'm just attaching the long side to the opening and the back, if that makes sense. And then I'm clipping it down, and then I'm going to sew a straight line across and then flip it over and sew another straight line across, just like I do with the cubes. And then after that, I am going to trim off the excess, and then I'm going to move on to working on the 2 removable potty pads. And for that part, I'm just adding the second seam just like I did with the previous potty pads, where I sew a seam around the pad that measures 2 inches away from the edge. So I do a 2-inch inseam on that. And then once I finish the pads are finished. I will not be adding anything to the pads, but I will be working on the piggy home in another video. You guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Also, everything that I did use in this video is going to be linked down below in the description. And in my next video, I'm going to be working on the cage liners, fleece forest, things like that in my next episode. Also, if you guys do have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below in the comments. And if you guys wanted for me to make ear cozies for you, if you guys want a custom order with me, you guys can contact me through Etsy or Instagram or Facebook. Also, I'll have my email linked down below if any of you are interested in getting a custom order made. I do also have ready to ship items in my Etsy shop, which will be linked down below. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Alright.